What's up, everyone? Aaron Egler here with Cheesehead TV, coming to you live on Tuesday afternoon. Just giving a shout out to the great Willie Wood. Rest in peace. Obviously, Super Bowl one hero. The game turned on his interception. Clearly, one of the greats to ever play the game, especially in Green Bay. Uh, that news came out later last evening after I'd gone live, but I definitely wanted to give him a shout and say hello to Green Bay Packers fans worldwide. Uh, Go Packers. What's up, Lakers for life? How you doing, man? Hey, what's up? What's up, Craig? Ishmael, what's up? Patrick, how you doing? Yeah, so, anytime you can give a shout out to a great, you got to do it. And Willie definitely uh, falls into that category. I think it's rather poetic that, he passes away at 83 years old the day after the Chiefs hoist their first Lombardi in 50 years, the team that he sent packing. Uh, he got to see him win one last time, and then went to the great beyond. Krista, what's up? How are you? Uh, what wide receivers should we get? Oh man, there are so many. It's like kids in a candy store, right? Um, it's interesting. I saw Matt Schneidman putting up earlier today um, the list of wide receivers the Packers have gotten in the second round throughout the years. Jordy Nelson is probably the closest thing they've had to a round one wide receiver. He was picked at number 36 overall. Clearly, they dropped out of number 30, which is where they are this year. It's too soon to say how things might shape up in the first round until we see some true team needs. But I will say, I think there's a case to be made for drafting a wide receiver at 30, but I don't think it's um, the necessity that people think it is just because of the fact that the class itself at wide receiver is so deep. As far as who individually they should go after, I'll get a little bit more into that with some of my podcast guests and or video guests here over the course of the next few weeks. Definitely be going into a lot of that during the combine, which is 19 days from now. But in the meantime, uh, I would say I would be surprised if they took a wide receiver at 30. Not to say it can't happen, but I'd be surprised. I like Schoenelt from Colorado, big playmaker. I agree, Ishmael. He's the kind of guy that will make a difference on Sundays for whichever team he ends up on. Could it be the Packers? I think it could be. I've seen a couple mocks um, have him go to the Packers at 30. I'm trying to think who the last one was. I think DJ had him going there, Daniel Jeremiah for NFL Network. I hope Patrick Queen falls to 30. I think there's a possibility he could. I like him. He's a violent tackler. He's a guy who maybe not quite the athlete that Murray is, but he could certainly help the Packers defense. I don't think there's any question. Was Dexter Williams' lack of playing time due to a numbers crunch dressing 46 on Sunday, or more a product that he hasn't grasped things quite yet? Matt, very much more the latter than the former. Um, I think there's no mystery after you saw uh, the Packers bring up a running back from the practice squad prior to the Cowboys game rather than play Williams. I think that tells you all you need to know. Clearly, he got a carry or two there down the stretch, but he has to take a big jump as far as his knowledge, not only of the playbook, but of the checks within the offensive system, knowing what to do on each and every play. I don't think there's any question the reason he didn't get on the field as much as maybe he would have liked or the Packers would have hoped for is because he wasn't quite on the right page with the quarterback and with the offense. Saul, thanks for the super chat. Kyle Shanahan blew another Super Bowl. I love that you sent us $2 to make that statement, but hey, it's hard to argue. I mean, I know there are a lot of mitigating factors. I know there's a lot of people all go into the effort or lack thereof, coming up just short in a Super Bowl, but Kyle's the spearhead. There's no doubt about that. Uh, what a great season, the wild ride it was. Got me thinking about how fortunate we've been to have back-to-back Hall of Fame QBs. No question, really just came for appreciation for those two guys. Carry the goddamn G. Garrett, I hear you, man. It is absolutely bewildering that the Packers have had such good fortune finding back-to-back phenomenal blue chip quarterbacks. And I think our stretches of seeing guys like Brett Hundley and Matt Flynn tell us all we need to know about what's around the corner when they move on from Aaron Rodgers. And, I do not pity or I do not envy the job that Brian Gutekunst has, trying to follow and trying to find his guy, trying to find somebody that will make at least attempt to make it 3 for 3 in Green Bay. Uh, the odds are long. Let's just say that. Are you all in with Winston Moss's Wildcats, most accountable team in football history? No, I'm a lifelong New York Guardians fan. XFL kicking off Saturday. Banky's watching XFL. I'm gonna take that as a no. As a no. Oh. Worst loss: San Francisco in Super Bowl 54 or 2014 NFC Championship game? Oh, Mark, I don't think it's even close. Come on, this is definitely the NFC Championship game from the Packers. I don't think there's any question. That was I mean, just every single thing that went wrong down the stretch for the Pack is much more excruciating, I think, than what the 49ers went through. And I know 49ers fans have no solace from that, but come on. 49ers Super Bowl championship hats and T-shirts on the way to Bangladesh. I got you. Goody's job will depend on whether he finds a capable QB, fair or not. Robert, I think you're right in your word usage there, because I don't think it necessarily hinges on him finding the next, oh my God, franchise guy, but it definitely hinges on him finding a guy who can operate the offense and keep them at least competent on offense. He doesn't even have to be otherworld, first ballot Hall of Famer type like Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers, but he's got to find somebody who they can win with and who can operate the offense and just move the sticks and be efficient. That's what he's got to find. And that's not an easy task. I mean, everybody talks about finding the next Aaron Rodgers or Brett Favre. I think that's an impossible task. But just finding a guy who can operate the offense, not make mistakes, just keep them on schedule, that's what he's got to do. And obviously, I think Drew Lock was that guy last year. The Broncos jumped up ahead of them to take him. So the search continues to see who that might be in Green Bay. At least the new quarterback will run Matt LaFleur's offense as designed if he's still around. Well, that's half the battle, right? Who knows where LaFleur will be if, Aaron Rodgers decides to hang him up. Matt may still be around. He may not be. We'll see. What position group are you the most excited to watch at the Combine? Michael, that's a good question. I would probably look at either inside backers or wide receivers. You're always kind of drawn to the Packers' needs. At least I am. But I will say, I think the wide receiver group, everything you've heard about the depth, the athleticism, uh, the the wide array of talent. I'm very interested to see if it pops off the field the way the scouting community has certainly made it sound like it will. Eric Witt, thank you for the super chat. Hey, Nags, catching you as I leave work. Thanks for all you do. Back to 0-0. Excited for another season with Cheesehead TV. Eric, thank you so much. Thanks for checking out the stream, and thanks for the super chat. Saul, thank you for the super chat. Justin Jefferson would be a nice pick, or hopefully Kenneth Murray. I would have no quibble with either one of those. I think Jefferson, he's getting a lot of pub lately. I know we had a scouting report on him on Cheesehead TV a couple days ago. He's picked up a bunch of comments on Twitter this afternoon. I saw a bunch of people talking about him, some tape breakdowns, etc. Certainly wouldn't be adverse to a wide receiver like Jefferson. Kenny Murray, you guys know if you've been here the last week or so, he's definitely my draft crush. I really want him in Green Bay, which unfortunately means he probably won't end up in Green Bay. Jitsu Nomiel, thank you for the super chat. KC snaps keep going up. Oh, Kenny Clark snaps keep going up. Will that be a problem if inside defensive line is not addressed? Did it contribute to back/lingering issues? I think that's a fair question as far as the back thing goes. He did play an insane amount of snaps, close to not quite 90%, but hovering around it. I do think they have to be able to get him off the field with a little bit more regularity. Now, he's your best player up front, so you want him on the field. I get that. But I do think they've got to be able to take him out and know things aren't going to fall apart. It's no mystery. I believe, if I remember correctly, the Dalvin Cook 75-yard touchdown run last week 2 was on the one play that Kenny took off. So they've got to be able to take him off the field and know that things aren't going to fall apart. It's kind of the problem and why coaches probably want him out there as much as they do. Does Goody go away from the typical Green Bay receiver of big and strong for small and fast? Herbert, I have been asked this question once already, and I do believe I'll probably get it a bunch of times because we're just getting done with a season where we've had a lot of tall, strong guys who weren't able to quote take the top off, not very explosive, not great run after the catch. I'll still be surprised if he deviates a whole lot from the formula laid down by Ron Wolf starting in 1991, where throughout, whether it's Ron Wolf, Mike Sherman, uh, Ted Thompson, and now Gutekunst, they have all liked and preferred those big-bodied receivers, big, strong guys who can work over the middle. And the theory being when the weather turns in November and December, not only helping work over the middle and get things churn out tough yards, but in the running game, be able to kind of muscle guys and help out in that regard. I do think if there's a talent there, if there's a guy with some quick twitch, with some explosiveness, they got to consider him. But they've had opportunities throughout the years and they just haven't taken them. Maybe that's an organizational thing. I think they would tell you it's just how the draft board fell. I'm not so sure I believe that. I think that is part of the philosophy in at 1265 Lombardi. And Gutekunst has made no secret that he does draw a lot from the time spent with Ron Wolf and Ted Thompson. And if that's anything to go by, I can't see a lot changing. But we'll see. Long way to go between now and the draft. Who knows what breadcrumbs they'll lay down for us to follow and blow way out of proportion between now and then. Eric, thank you for the super chat. Draft a wide receiver who can block or train that as they go. Oh, that is obviously preferable if they can block, but that is absolutely not what you're looking for in the draft. You are looking for playmakers. Obviously, if they can catch the ball, explosiveness, quick twitch, short area quickness. These are the things you want in whatever wide receiver you end up with, whether in the draft or in free agency. If they can block, yes, absolutely bring it. But that is not the top of your list in any way, shape, or form. No question. Thoughts about pursuing a veteran defensive tackle in free agency? Simple X, I don't think it's off the board. I think it's a possibility. I would be absolutely shocked if they looked there early on in free agency in the silly money season, so to speak. The legal tampering period starts on March 16th, I believe. Those first 2 days, that's when the big money is spent. Obviously, the Packers spent big on the second official day of free agency last year. I'll be surprised if they dip their toe in those waters again. I think if they were to sign somebody like that, it would be most likely 4 or 5 days into free agency once the initial spending splurge has settled down. But I wouldn't dismiss it out of hand. Absolutely not. I think there's a possibility they look at someone. Uh, just in case anyone was wondering, yeah, 12 can do it still. David, I agree. The way in which, the manner in which is probably a little different, probably needs to change a bit. But yes, as I said on Twitter last night, I had a Q&A later last evening. People, I guess, pining for or hoping for a return to what Rodgers once was, that ship has sailed. He is not that guy anymore. The get outside the pocket and make magic happen, that is much more few and far between these days and will be going forward. However, he can still do great things. He can still make every throw. He can still make magic happen. There's no question about that. He needs to embrace the system a little bit more, and I don't doubt that he will. He wants to be great. This offense will help him be great. I'm still wishing we would have kept Daniels. Yeah, I got asked that last night, and I've been asked that throughout the season. I mean, look, one of a few reasons Gutekunst moved on from Daniels, other than just the scheme shift as far as trying to get the same kinds of body types across the front. Um, you know, all you have to do is look at Mike missing a significant amount of time for the Lions this year to know that's part of the reason why Gutekunst moved on. And it's always better to move on a year too early than a year too late. And it sure seems like Gutekunst moved on at the exact right time, rather than sticking with him for another year. Let him go. His body's not what it was, not holding up. And I know Mike would quibble with that. Undoubtedly, the Lions are hoping for a bounce back, but could he have helped the Packers in some way this season? I don't doubt it. Absolutely. but he couldn't have helped them on the sideline injured, which is what he was for most of 2019. Big dog in green and gold next season? Dan, I think so. I think he's got one more year in him. I don't question his ability, desire, etc. I know he's expressed a desire to come back. Aaron Rodgers clearly loves him, talks about him all the time. And I didn't see anything to tell me that he's ready to, that is not capable of playing another year. Plus, LaFleur certainly seems to do a great job of keeping him fresh. Lots of veteran rest days for Big Dog throughout the season, kept him healthy, kept him nimble, fresh, what have you. And I think if his role is the same next year as it was this year, he absolutely should be back. No question about it. Your top highlight of the 19 season, Dez or Bears wide receiver one? That's funny, Folk 34. For those of you who don't know, both Dez Bryant and Bears wide receiver one, who told me to keep his name out of my mouth, so I shall, came after me on Twitter. Unprovoked, I might add. I don't know. I love them both. Hey, man, it's Twitter. It's part of the fun, right? It's a good time. Can you see Irvin being used a bit like Montgomery? Craig, that's interesting. He's not quite as muscular as Montgomery is, but as far as being a slash type player, I could see it. You certainly saw a hint of the capabilities and his possible effect on an offense and the corresponding opponents. Uh, Certainly down the last month of the season, I don't think there's any question that he really changed, helped kind of develop with that orbit motion, his speed. Rodgers just missing him on that wheel route in Detroit. I think there's a lot of potential there, and I think he could really add some dynamic presence to the offense with a full offseason in Green Bay, including mini camps and training camp. I really like his potential. Now, don't forget, he's set to be a free agent, so we'll see if he's actually back in the fold, but I got to imagine they want him back. But yes, I really like his potential in LaFleur's system to help them out in that regard. Who wins the Super Bowl first, Rodgers or McCarthy? Woo, that's a good one. Hot time, hot time. I want to say Rodgers just because I'm a Packers fan, but I'm not going to sleep on Mike in Dallas. They got a lot of talent on that roster. Obviously, they're going to be going through a bit of a change, a bit of a you know pivot, so to speak. But do not sleep on the Cowboys. I think McCarthy will have them winning and winning a lot. Like the video, peeps. Thanks, Kumquat. I agree. Hit like, hit subscribe. Playing the AFC South is going to be tough next season. Yeah, a lot of tough matchups there. I was looking at the home and away squads just this afternoon. Because I was hoping I saw the Jaguars were playing back-to-back home games in London. I was like, do we play the Jaguars? And no, we don't. But we do play the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who have been known to go over to London from time to time, and or other environs in the UK due to their ownership having an ownership stake over there in a Premier League team. So maybe the Tampa game ends up in London. I don't know. We'll see. Will McCarthy squander Elliott? Craig, I don't think so. I know a lot of people are down on Mike and his prospects for running the football, but I would say go look at 2014. Go look at the usage for Eddie Lacy, his second season when he was a full-time starter. I think that's the floor for what Zeke can do with Mike McCarthy. I think Elliott's going to go ham with Mike. That's just me. Since Vitale wasn't used much by Matt LaFleur, is he vulnerable to be let go? Sly, I'd be lying if I'd said that I thought hadn't crossed my mind, but the thought has definitely crossed my mind. I do wonder about it because he did catch everything in sight in camp last summer, and then was barely utilized throughout the year. And then he wasn't great in the run game. He can get in the way of guys, but he's not a blow you up kind of blocker, lead blocker, etc. Which makes me wonder, which brings me right back around to where I was last offseason. Because last offseason, I spent the whole summer talking about how, I wouldn't be surprised if they tried to upgrade and or move on from Danny Vitale. And then they got to training camp, and he was everywhere, catching everything. And I literally went up to him in the locker room and said, "You're making me look like an idiot because you're being so fantastic. You're catching everything in sight. You're a true offensive weapon." And he said, "Thank you for that. I greatly appreciate it." And I said, "Hey, man, keep it up." And I expected that to continue during the regular season. It just never materialized. And I know you can't feature a fullback, but I certainly thought they would utilize him a hell of a lot more, seeing as they did have so many issues trying to get productivity in the passing game, so much hay made about the wide receiving group, etc. Why wouldn't you utilize him? So a lot more. Anyway, that's just me. That's just something I'm into. Pass catching fullbacks. All right, everybody, I'm gonna have to jump. I can't thank you guys enough. Thank you so much for participating, for chatting, throwing down. Matt Hall catching your super chat right before I leave here. Thank you, Nags, for coverage and Cheesehead TV content. Girlfriend's look when she hears you say we're live on Cheesehead TV is always funny. Can't convert her to football, unfortunately. Hey, takes different strokes for different folks. It's okay. This is the Packers fan time for you, and she can go do whatever she needs to do, and then you guys come back together and form a perfect union. That's what it's all about. Yeah, it's my good buddy Steve. Thank you guys so much. Thanks for supporting. If you do want to support Cheesehead TV, please go to Patreon and consider giving us $5 a month. Supports everything we do: video, content, social, across the board. I have a great podcast guest lined up for next week. I may have a surprise one later on this week. So we got a lot more podcasts coming to you over there. If you haven't checked out my chat with Rob Domofsky, that went up yesterday. Make sure you check that out. Those are all exclusive to Patreon. Patreon members. All we ask is $5 a month. Supports everything we do. Hit like, hit subscribe. We're Cheesehead TV. We're devoted to Green Bay Packers fans worldwide. Thanks a lot, everybody. Have a great night.